Now is the debt paid. So we have been following Ashwapati and his rise in consciousness, and we are now with Ashwapati's wife, whom Sri Aurobindo does not name. Deshpande found her name, but I don't think it matters because Sri Aurobindo did not name her. And she's with Narad, of course. And we are seeing that when the avatar comes down and has to take on the burden of the human form, even the avatar forgets for a while who he is. And even Sri Aurobindo, had to be in England for 25 years, learning poetry, reading the great poets, learning different languages and reading the poets in German and Italian and Latin and French and even some Greek he learned. So we are seeing now the avatar has done his work, and he's going to tell us how he has done that work. Beginning with now is the debt paid.
Now is the debt paid, wiped off the original score. The Eternal suffers in a human form. He has signed salvation's testament with his blood. He has opened the doors of his undying peace.
Well, this is very, very important and very poignant also. Very poignant on our level of understanding, which is that the first quadrant of matter, vital, life, and mind. We see that the original score, the score here is, I don't think it's a musical reference. I think it's just the original score, the original thing that has had to happen. And that was told to us in also in book one, when he says that his nature we must put on as he put ours. Remember that?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what he's referring to here. That the original score, that score that we have to do this and the divine had to do that, and so now that original score is wiped off because the debt is paid. But then he says he changes, of course, a little bit after that full stop, and he says the eternal suffers in a human form. Why? Well, he had to give up all the transcendent power that he had. He had to reduce it, reduce it more and more and more and more and more just to come into this human form. And he had to reduce it even more when he came into the stone and the clay. So we can see that in a human form, he certainly suffers because he has to take on the suffering of all humanity. Sri Aurobindo did that. He would tell us in book one, Canto 4, that he could feel the modes of humans. They could enter into his calm. It's a powerful passage. It's very important here because it's relevant to these lines, that he could feel the beating heart in other souls. He could feel that. And then eventually he could even change things through his consciousness. So that's what he tells us in Book 1, Canto 4. So now he says the eternal, he's just telling us this. The eternal suffers in a human form. He has signed salvation's testament with his blood. Well, a testament is a very important word here because it's a covenant between God and humans. It's a covenant. It's an agreement between God and human. And this is what he has told us in the first book also. And now he's telling that us again here. But then he has a colon after the word blood because he wants us now to feel the next line so powerfully. He has opened the doors of his undying peace. Now, he's actually going to continue on for a while because we have to read those lines. They're very, very important. And he begins with the deity. The deity is the supreme being, God, Purushottama, transcendent, Ishvara. We have suffering for another's loss and another's pain. At this level of our consciousness, we feel that suffering so deeply. And when it's the divine, then the psychic being is almost crying out, why did this have to happen? But we have to understand that it's a game. It's a play of the divine. And only when we rise to the next level of consciousness will we understand that. We cannot understand it at this level. At this level, there's too much duality of pain mixed with joy and suffering. So we have to see that the deity compensates the creature's claim. The deity is very important here because the deity can be living to us in a picture, in an image, in a statue, and through our worship, we can move and act with this deity. Others may feel him, Sri Aurobindo says, always present, outwardly, subtle, physically, abiding with them where they live or in the very room. But sometimes this is only for a period, he tells us.
The deity compensates the creature's claim. The creator bears the law of pain and death. A retribution smites the incarnate God.
Well, that's a powerful statement, and we have to look at that. The creature's claim is that he wants to be divine also. In his highest soul, he already is divine, but he's forgotten that divinity by taking birth. So he has a psychic being that is growing with each birth, and he wants to become divine. So the deity compensates the claim of us, our creatures. Now the creator is the divine being, bears the law of pain and death. A retribution smites the incarnate God. Now that's an interesting line, very, very interesting line. A retribution is usually a punishment for a wrong or evil doing. How can that retribution smite? Smite is the past tense of smote. Present tense. Smite.
Present.
Hit, inflict with a heavy blow, with the hand or something. So a retribution smites the incarnate God because he has had to suffer for all of us. All of the avatars who come have died and often have been killed. Krishna, Christ, Sri Aurobindo had to give his whole body to the earth to inculcate in the earth the supermental. And so the incarnate God, incarnate is embodied in flesh, given a bodily human form. That's incarnate. So, very clearly, he's invested with a bodily nature and form, and he is suffering this retribution from humanity, from the world, from the human collectivity. But then he's going to tell us even more, uh, filling us even more than he did in Book 1, Canto 4. So let's go through that.
His love has paved the mortal's road to heaven. He has given his life and light to balance here the dark account of mortal ignorance.
It's again the Holocaust of the divine. Only through the divine love can this world be saved. Now we're hearing about all these extraterrestrials living on the earth. We're hearing about the dark state. We're hearing about AI and all of these somewhat perhaps unholy things, but not necessarily, because everything is the divine. And if we cannot understand that, then we're in trouble. We can look at faults and flaws in the world, but as in Oroville, if we don't realize that Oroville is the Divine Mother's creation, and whatever happens, we don't really account for very much. Mother said, humans don't matter at all to the creation of Oroville. And so we can see here, however, that this dark account of mortal ignorance, where we are right now, the divine has given his life and his light to balance this dark account. So he's balancing this dark account of mortal ignorance. Now he's going to get us into Christianity. So read on.
It is finished, the dread mysterious sacrifice, offered by God's martyred body for the world. Gethsemane and Calvary are his lot.
Gethsemane.
Gethsemane and Calvary are his lot. He carries the cross on which man's soul is nailed. His escort is the curses of the crowd. Insult and jeer are his right's acknowledgment. 2 thieves slain with him mock his mighty death.
Wow, this is pure Christianity. In Aramaic, Christ's last words are, his last word is tetelestai. Tetelestai. And tetelestai we translate as it is finished. And Sri Aurobindo uses it right there. So if you have ever some time to read Conrad Aiken, Tetelestai, read that poem. It's a very powerful poem. So, it is finished, Tetelestai. What is it? It's the dread, mysterious sacrifice that is offered by God's martyred body for the world. Martyred body for the world. Gethsemane is the name of a garden on the Mount of Olives, east of Jerusalem. and it was the scene of the agony and betrayal of Christ, where supposedly we hear that Judas was given 50 pieces of silver to betray Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane. Calvary is the hill outside of ancient Jerusalem where Jesus was crucified. So we see very clearly Jesus, Sri Aurobindo speaks a lot about Jesus in his various books. People don't know that. Mother doesn't speak about him too much, but Sri Aurobindo does. So we see Tetelestai, it is finished. The dread, mysterious sacrifice, offered what? By God's martyred body. So they martyred him, of course, for the world. Gethsemane and Calvary are his lot. He carries the cross on which man's soul is nailed. So the cross is the symbol, of course, of we have the vertical and the horizontal, the transcendent and the cosmic. And we see that the divine carries that cross on which man's soul is also nailed, because we suffer and we die also. And then he continues on. This is very, very Christian. His escort is the curses of the crowd. There was a huge crowd there. And even Pontius Pilate says, I see no wrong in this man. And still they want him. When I was a boy in the Catholic Church, the priest would tell us the Jews killed Christ. That's not exactly true. The Romans were there too, and the Roman soldiers were there to kill him also. Insult and jeer are his rights acknowledgement. Jeer is taunting, cries of derision, remarks of derision, jibes. Now, when Christ died, 2 thieves were hung on a cross. Christ was in the middle, 1 thief was on his left, 1 thief was on his right. Sri Aurobindo has told us that in a few lines. It's given us the whole picture of the crucifixion. 2 thieves slain with him mock his mighty death. Well, there was a time of mocking for the crowd there when Christ was crucified. And he's going to continue on, but then we're going to see, actually this is not easy for you, I understand that. These lines are very powerful, and they hit us deep in our soul.
Now is the debt paid, wiped off the original score. The Eternal suffers in a human form. He has signed salvation's testament with his blood. He has opened the doors of his undying peace. The deity compensates the creature's claim. The Creator bears the law of pain and death. A retribution smites the incarnate God. His love has paved the mortal's road to heaven. He has given his life and light to balance here the dark account of mortal ignorance. It is finished, the dread mysterious sacrifice, offered by God's martyred body for the world. Gethsemane and Calvary are his lot. He carries the cross on which man's soul is nailed. His escort is the curses of the crowd. Insult and jeer are his rights acknowledgement. 2 thieves slain with him mock his mighty death.
Good reading. And I got every word. What did you do? I got every
I
word.
held it. I held
Ah,
it close.
excellent.
Yes.
Wonderful. All right, so a difficult section, but necessary for us to read it.
Yeah.
Namaste.
You. Namaste.